Today it is time to discuss Aristotle's theory of anacyclosis. Aristotle said that political systems follow a natural repetitive cycle, and one system becomes corrupt and decays into another form. This cycle generally unfolds like this. First of all, a strong and virtuous leader emerges, grabs power, and becomes a just and wise ruler. This he calls monarchy. Over time, this monarch or his descendants can become oppressive and self-serving. So monarchy degenerates into tyranny, dictatorship. After some time, a wise and virtuous elite overthrows the tyrant and comes into power. This he calls aristocracy. After some time, aristocracy also becomes corrupt and it decays into rule by the corrupt rich, serving their own interest. This he calls oligarchy. The corrupt oligarchy is then overthrown by the people and democracy based on civic virtue emerges. Then democracy also can corrupt into mob rule, ruled by an irrational, unstable mass. This is called ochlocracy. As per some social scientists, and I agree with them, today in many countries, the status of rule has reached ochlocracy. Government by viral meme, where public decides important points based on WhatsApp, TikTok, Twitter trends, etc. What is the meaning and modern relevance of this theory of anacyclosis? In modern terms, it warns us about how unchecked power, whether it is in the hands of a person, a group, or the masses, can corrupt any form of government. It suggests the need for balance, accountability, and institutional safeguards to prevent the degeneration of political systems. It is similar to the Chinese word wu ji bi fa. Wu ji bi fa means that when you reach an extreme, the opposite of that starts emerging from that extreme. Let us use wu ji bi fa to look at the liberal democracy of today. Montesquieu, a political philosopher who lived in the 17th and 18th century just before the French Revolution, speaks on the danger of extreme equality. In a well-ordered democracy, citizens are equal before the law, but still respect institutions, hierarchy, and merit. But if equality is taken too far, people start rejecting all forms of authority, believing that no one should have more power or privilege than anyone else. No one is willing to accept the government's authority also. So you see today, even judges are being trolled. Sarkozy in his election promise had to say that I will make students address the teachers as vous and not tu. Vous, as you know in French, is an address of respect, and tu is not of respect but of familiarity, like the tu of Hindi. Wo is like aap. So, in response to this chaos, people demand a strong ruler to restore order, and this leads to the rise of the master, he says, the despot. Montesquieu's argument can be seen in cases where radical egalitarianism undermines social structures, whether in politics, institutions, or even workplaces, eventually leading to authoritarian responses. That was on equality. What does Montesquieu say on liberty? Montesquieu says that liberty is the ability to do what the law permits, rather than the unrestricted freedom or license to do or say whatever one wants. So, the key idea of Montesquieu is that moderate equality means stability and freedom. Extreme equality will lead to anarchy and dictatorship. His ideas on liberty and equality greatly influenced the French Revolution, but he would have been very critical of how the French Revolution, in its pursuit of extreme equality, led to a reign of terror and finally dictatorship under Napoleon, which is exactly what he warned about. So the French Revolution spoke of liberty, equality and fraternity, but ended up with heads and torsos and guillotine. There is a strain of similarity in the realization of not only Trump, Putin and Xi, but several other leaders who are concerned about excessive liberality. For example, Trump says that there will be a binary notion only in sex. Sex will not be a spectrum. No sexual fluidity he is accepting. The way he is bringing it about, of course, is another discussion, but this is what is his view. Xi similarly is saying that he would not like to have shows of effeminacy in males. Putin is objecting to the fact that Greta Thunberg, the 16-year-old climate activist, should not be speaking to world leaders like this. She doesn't understand the complexity of how the world operates, and they are resisting this strain of completely free speech. And this talk is not the right space to decide whether they are right or wrong. But there is a strong rise of illiberal strain in democracy. And democratic nations which wish to preserve democracy and freedom will have to find a counter to their arguments and their concern. Otherwise, too much equality will lead to ochlocracy, and too much liberty will lead to the rise of its counter, which is Neo-fascism.